Back here on SportsLine, Steve Lehman here with you tonight on NewsChannel 5+, along with the head coach of the Austin Peay Governors, Will Healy. The Govs picked second today in the preseason poll for the OVC. Far cry from a year ago. I'm not sure you got a vote last year, like a single vote.
If people could not vote us, they would have not voted us a year ago, I can guarantee. With good reason. I mean, when you lost as many games as we had in a row, I understand why, and I expected it. You kind of expect the same thing in reverse this year, but obviously finishing second in our league last year didn't do us a whole lot anyway. So it's great. Expectations, all the hype, it's all there. There's no doubt about it, and I think our kids are ready for it, and it doesn't worry them. I mean, they're prepared. So.
Picked second, nipping on the heels of four-time conference champion Jacksonville State. So let's go back to last fall. The losing streak after you lose the first two games of the season goes to 29, the longest in the country. And then you have an opportunity in a game that I talked to you that week. I knew you felt like here's our opportunity, and you guys blew the doors off of that game to win it. Well, what was the jubilation feeling? Because you knew it in the second half. You knew the win was coming. What was just the feeling like on the sideline when success finally came to this team?
It's funny. I was on the bus on the way to the game, and I tried to put so much pressure on our guys that week about what it's like to play as the favorite. It's the first time in years that Austin Peay was favorited to win a game. Even with a 29-game winning streak, everybody in our community, everybody in the media or whatever, expected us to win that game. So I wanted to put a lot of pressure on them to see how they would respond to the pressure and the expectation of having to win. And I remember being on the bus, and I thought to myself, I've put so much pressure on these kids, and they hadn't won a game in 29 tries. If this thing doesn't pan out and for some reason we get beat today, I don't know how I'll be able to get them back. What's your plan if this thing doesn't go according to plan today? And I didn't feel like it was okay just to win the game, have some fourth quarter come back and go win the game. I thought we had to dominate the game, and like they did all year long, they just came out and blew my expectations out of the water. They played great. They got after them early, and they didn't. I also felt like we weren't far enough ahead where we could. Yeah, we were up, 49-0 or something at halftime, and I didn't feel like we could let off the brake. We had to get better. I mean, we weren't. We were about to go to 1-2 and 1 for our last 30. It wasn't like we'd arrived. So the second half was important to me to keep your foot on the gas pedal, and the kids were awesome. The night was unbelievable. I'll never forget looking over and seeing Emily, with her face between her hands, and she lived it just like I had, and a special night, and it was definitely getting the monkey off your back.
Well, the crazy thing is, once you won one game and snapped the streak, you just kept on winning. From that point on, you guys finished the season 7-2, and 3 of your losses last year were to FBS programs, and so that's maybe the most amazing thing to me of the season is the goal initially was win a game, right?
Yeah.
And then once you got going, you managed to turn this into a team that was a confident bunch that thought they were going to win every time they stepped on the field.
Well, you hope that when they got the taste of the locker room and the celebration and the pats on the back one time, that it would just open up a new can of worms. And we had fun now. We celebrated, and we had an absolute blast. And I think the kids wanted that feeling again and fought for that feeling again every single week. But it was almost, even as a staff, not just players, but even as a staff, it was like your expectations changed week to week. So if you looked at, I remember going through the 3-game gauntlet of TSU and Martin and Jacksonville State, and you're saying, man, this is a really tough stretch. And all of a sudden you get to the game, and and you played well the last week, and you think, man, I feel a lot better about this game than I did 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the next one, you say, I feel a lot better about this than I did a week ago. And so the team just matured so quickly, and they were so confident that you felt like, the sky was the limit.
When I watched the games last year and I got to see some of your footage from the school up there inside the locker room, some of the behind-the-scenes stuff as well, I was always struck by how every winning celebration to me felt like the first one.
Yeah.
How did you manage to do that? How did you manage to make win 6, which doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things when you're trying to get a playoff berth at that point and you're long since snapped the streak, mean as much as the first one?
If your kids don't have fun winning, I don't feel like they fight as hard to make sure that they can do it again. And I remember we were playing Southeast Missouri. We were up 38-7, middle of the third quarter, and we let them come back in the game. And I think the game finished up a 7-point football game. And I remember getting on the headset. This was homecoming, and I remember getting on the headset, and I told the staff, if any of you go in here and act like that you're disappointed in them, I will be thoroughly upset with all of you, because we went an entire year trying to win a game. That if you don't go in and enjoy it, we'll get on them on Monday. We didn't finish the game like we want to. We'll learn from it. But if we don't enjoy them, understanding how difficult they are to get, because we've lived that life, then I think we're doing our program a disservice. And we did have fun. My goal is that the locker room celebrations are so much fun that all the kids can think about all week long is, I just want to feel that feeling again.
It was awesome. It was quite a show to see when they happened, and they happened a lot last year. I'm curious, if you had a different job, if your first head coaching job would have been someplace else that didn't have the history of this, do you think you have had the same attitude towards a win or that celebration or that feeling?
That's a great question. I didn't enjoy the wins at Chattanooga as much as I've enjoyed the wins at Austin Peay. Part of it is because you've invested a little bit more. It's kind of your baby, so there's definitely more heartstrings pulled. But I do think there's something different about the history of our program. I've learned a lot from this job and from this program that when they hire me at Hunter Middle School in 5 years, it will be the same thing for me. It's got to be fun for the people that are playing for you, and the kids have to feel like that the work they put in the whole week has been rewarded with feeling good about themselves. And we're going to give we give them Sunday off, and we're going to come back on Monday morning and we're going to learn from it, whether we won or we lost. But Saturday is we're going to enjoy the victory, and then we'll move on from there.
There's something very wise in what you just said and all that about enjoying the moment, enjoying how hard it is to do this, and you can still learn and you can still grind it out when it happens. But if you don't enjoy it in the moment, if you don't enjoy it with the people you did and what you accomplished in the win, then sort of why are you out there? Yeah. But so few people in this business allow themselves to have that moment. I just think it's very, very refreshing. But
to me, it's got to be genuine too. I think that you can see all the videos you want to about guys in there doing some dance or whatever it is, and it feels rehearsed and it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of energy. I remember going through the locker room one of the games we won and grabbing people out of their lockers and saying, if you don't get up there and go celebrate, we are going to get the entire team up and we're going to go run until we're going to figure out how to celebrate. And that's important to me. But it's every time it's genuine. Every time it's loving being with each other and loving those moments that I think you hope to recreate again the next Saturday. And I think you bring up a great point. Would it be the same if you were coaching somewhere else? I don't know, but it'll be the same for me as long as I'm coaching because of what I've been through.
The challenge, obviously, for you now is this year with the expectations where pretty much everybody's going to pick you to win basically every game you walk on the field, except for maybe Georgia, maybe Jacksonville State in the conference at some point. How you keep those wins feeling as fresh and as special each and every time. We'll get more into this season in a second, but as great as last season was, and it was mind-blowing to people who really study college football to see where Austin Peay went from 2-8-4 and in the discussion, and by golly, I thought for all the world you were in, and I know you did too, the night before Selection Sunday for the NCAA FCS playoffs. When you were in that room with that team and those guys who had poured their blood, sweat, and tears out on that field and in that room for you for so long, and you knew that you weren't going to get in or you didn't get in, I mean, what can you do at that point as a head coach?
That's a pretty helpless feeling. I really thought all the way through the week, if we won the football game, then we would be in the playoffs. And as we got closer and closer to time, there was something that told me, you know, for the selection show, there was something that made me feel a little bit uneasy. And I don't know what it was, but I just didn't have a great feel that morning. I didn't sleep at all the night before. And Ron Ivey came and grabbed me as the show was starting, and he said, we didn't get in. And so then it was a decision of, do you allow them to keep watching it? You know, you got these TV set up. You got you know, some booster club members and some Govs Club people that are there. You got your whole team sitting there. You got your group of seniors in the front row. You're expecting to have this huge celebration, figuring out who you're going to play that week. Do you stop it and not allow them to go through the heartbreak, or do you make sure that the kids that are coming back have that feeling in their gut as they go through the off season? For me, it was, we need to feel what this feels like. We left it up for somebody else to decide. We didn't do our part, and we need to feel this, because it should be motivation for all of us moving forward. And the guys those seniors, those 14 seniors that were sitting on the front row, it's the toughest 30 minutes I've ever had of being a coach, because I didn't want to stop talking to them. I rambled. My wife says I ramble anyway. I rambled just so I didn't have to stop talking to them, because I loved every minute of watching them succeed, because I had to go through a year without any success. And then I looked at the group coming back and I said, you need to thank these guys for what they just did and for what this program will accomplish moving forward. This is tough. Remember it. Work like you don't want this to ever happen again. If you do, it'll be the best lesson you've ever had to learn.
You said you guys left it up for interpretation or didn't do quite enough to get in. I would argue that. I think what happened was one of the great injustices we've ever seen, frankly, for a team that lost 3 of its 4 games to FBS opponents. And then your one loss was to a top 4 seed in the tournament in the FCS. You guys should have been in. There's no question about that. But when you look back on it now and you have that experience and you watch the underclassmen who are now coming back, who are going to be a part of this year's team, from what you've seen in the offseason, did it have the desired effect to make them watch it and feel it in that moment to what you've seen this offseason?
Yeah, but yes, without a doubt. I think they've stepped up their game even another notch in this offseason. I think Chris Laskowski, our strength coach, they'd work like that if they'd have gone 0-11 again. So it doesn't surprise me. However, I think the one thing that's different about the group of kids we have is they haven't allowed it to affect their confidence. They feel like, without a doubt, this, you know, that we'll build on it and we'll move forward and we won't ever leave it up to chance again. So it's not like it's hurt their confidence. They know what we have to do to make sure it's not in question anymore, but it's also been the chip on their shoulder that I felt like they needed to get them through some long, hot summer days.
Different feeling at spring ball this year and everything else you've been doing, just from a program that tried so long just to become relevant to now being a team that's going to be the hunted with the bullseye on your chest? You know what?
I'm so naive and probably young and dumb that I felt like everybody always cared what we were doing. You know, I don't feel like people are paying more attention now than they were a year ago. I just think there's more validation behind what you're doing. I felt like we had as good a buzz about us last year at OVC Media Day as we had this year. I think the kids walked around with the swagger last year, not having won a game. But obviously feel like that the talent level at our place has continued to increase. I feel like the kids have paid the price to have a chance to be successful again. And you know, the beauty of college football is you got to go out and prove it each and every week, and there's no telling what can happen. You know, I mean, you could have a great football team, you could have all the starters coming back, and if the group doesn't gel, if they don't prepare, if you got some, you know, the ball doesn't quite bounce your way, then you may not win 7 or 8 games again. But I feel like to this point our kids have done what they needed to do to give themselves a shot.
Huge changes with Austin Peay football, from the doormats really in the FCS to one of the teams to beat this year. Will Healy, a huge reason for that. He's the head coach of the Austin Peay Govs. Phone lines are open tonight. 737-7767 is the number. Call us up if you have a question for Coach or what to expect about the Govs this year. We'll get into his team, some of those expectations, and the atmosphere that Forterra Stadium has become in Clarksville on Saturdays as well. Stay tuned. More with Will Healy after this. You're watching SportsLine on News Channel 5+.